Hello and welcome to Pots and Trowels, and thank you to our supporters Mr Fothergill Seeds and Cobra Garden. Today I'm going to be looking at some lovely summer flowering shrubs and doing a bit of propagation and checking the fruit trees. One of the lovely things in the garden at this time of the year are the summer flowering shrubs, and this is one of my favourites. This is a Philadelphus, the mock orange blossom, and they come in all different shapes and sizes, double flowers, some are fairly dwarf, some are really tall. This one is called microphyllus, which has got a small leaf, and it's got these beautiful single flowers on there, but it's the scent, and as soon as you walk out of our house and up into the garden, you're hit by it, and they are absolutely delicious. I think they smell a bit like those big pink bubble gums we used to get when we were kids, but other people think they smell of other things. But they're lovely right the way through June and into July. And others such as Deutzia, Strawberry Fields is another one of my favourites with its lovely double pink flowers. And then another one is the Beauty Bush, the Coltwitzia, which is a pale pink. They're all lovely at this time of the year. Now, if you want to take some cuttings off them, now is the time that we can do it. We can also do it in the winter as hardwood, but if you want to have a go now, we do it as what they call softwood cuttings. And softwood cuttings is basically the new sappy growth that's growing at this time of the year. They root quite easily as long as you can keep them cool and moist and prevent them from wilting. So time to collect them is usually when it's a bit cloudy or late evening, early morning. Just get a little bag and put a bit of water in there just to keep it nice and moist. So this is the growth. So I'm just going to snip off the top 2 or 3 inches like that. And then what I'm going to do is just to pop those into this bag to keep them nice and fresh, and I'm going to gather some more from around the garden and I'll show you what to do with them. So there we go, cuttings in a bag, nice and fresh, and all we need to do now is to prepare them and insert them. But before we do that, just have a look at what you need, because you don't need anything special or anything technical to do them. First thing though is you need a bit of compost, and this is just a multi-purpose compost. I've added a little bit of perlite into it, which are these little white balls in there. All they do is help with drainage and aeration around the cuttings. If you've got some, add a bit to the compost. If not, it doesn't matter, they will still root without it. And then we need something to put the cuttings in. So if you're just doing a few cuttings, then small plant pots are okay, or little cell trays. If you're doing lots, then you might use a bigger cell tray where you can get multiple in there. And if you haven't got a propagator, then something like this. These are really cheap to buy, that's just going to sit over the top to keep the humidity in. So let's have a look at the cuttings. So tip them out. If it's a really hot sunny day, try and do this somewhere where it's shady. So the idea is we don't want them to dry out. They don't even want to come out the bag because they're in there where it's nice and moist. So we just need to get the cuttings out there, nice and fresh. Look at those lovely cuttings. And then what we do with them is we need either a knife or some snips. Now I prefer to use a knife when I'm preparing the cuttings, and what we do is we take hold of a cutting like this, and just below the leaf joint I'm just cutting that carefully onto my thumb, and then I'm going to pinch off or cut off those lower leaves, and if you think it's got a lot of leaf left on there, you can take one off. We don't want too much leaf on the top. Now if you don't like using a knife, then you could use snips or scissors. These are perfect, these little snips. They're really, really sharp, and you can make a lovely clean cut. So again, it's just below the leaf joint, and you can pinch off or just snip those off. They are so, so sharp. And again, we'll just do this one. So it's important that we make a clean cut like that, and say if we think there's too much leaf, take a bit off. So there's our 3 cuttings ready to insert. So just put those away. So then we need a little pot or the cell tray. So I'm just going to fill that with compost, level it off, just tap it down. You could use a dibber if you want to, but with these we can just pop them straight in there. Just carefully push them in to the compost like that, about an inch or so down. Just push them in, lightly firm them. They then need a drink of water to keep the compost moist, and then you can put them into your, if you've got a little cover like that. They can go in that type of thing if you want to. Good thing to do with them on a regular basis is to give them a mist to make sure that the leaves stay moist. And if you haven't got a propagator, then why not use just a bag like this? This is just a freezer bag that you can fit over the top like that carefully. And if you put that on a cool windowsill with an elastic band around it, that will steam up, keep it nice and cool and humid in there. And in about a month to 6 weeks time, they should have rooted. And at that point, we can take them out and pop them on. And it's an easy way to get lots of new shrubs for free for your garden. Well, I'm in my little mini fruit orchard where I've got a selection of apples, pears and plums, and this year they seem to be doing really well. We had lots of blossom, we had good weather and very little in the way of frost, so we've got a good set of fruit on them. And the warm weather helped in May, and then the rain came at the right time. It's a bit cooler now and a bit blustery, but this is fine for the fruit. And on apples, we can see here they are now starting to develop, but we've got some very small ones on there as well. And there is a thing known as the June drop, and that's where apple trees naturally shed some of their excess fruit. If it's not developing properly or they're carrying too much, they naturally drop it. And that happens through June and where we are in North Yorkshire into July. So I'm not going to thin any of these fruits yet. I'm going to wait for some of these smaller ones, which I know will drop off. And then if I think there's too many on it in July, we'll take a few off it. But if we look at the plum tree next to it, this has done really, really well. This is a Victoria plum. Last year it had no fruit at all. This year it is laden. You can see here they're just hanging like bunches of grapes. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we're going to get plenty of lovely fruits in late August, September time. What happens with these trees is very often they go into a process called biennial bearing, and that means if you let them carry a really heavy crop one year, then it tires the plant out. Next year it doesn't blossom because it's recovering, so it has a rest, and then the following year you get fruit. So what we should be doing ideally is to be thinning them, and we can do this now with plums. So if you've got a plum tree with lots of plums on it, ideally, and I know it seems a waste, but what we need to be doing is taking about half of these off and just snap them off, or if you find it difficult to snap them off, in my pocket here I've got some lovely little snippers which are ideal. They've got a long pointed nose on there, and you can literally just go in and you can snip every other one off. And it seems a bit of a waste, I know, but what it will do is it gives those that you've left more room to develop, so you get better quality fruit, but it also takes some of the weight off, because if you get a lot of fruit on a plum tree as they develop, the branches often snap later on in the summer, so we're preventing that. So it's quite a therapeutic little job. It's just a case of going round, pruning every other one off on the branch to reduce this heavy crop by 50%, and we should get some fabulous plums later on in the season. Well, thank you for watching Pots and Trowels, and thank you for telling all your friends about it. And remember, you can catch up on everything we've done on YouTube, where you subscribe for free. It's got all the back catalogue of all the videos that we've done. Next time, I'm going to be catching up with some jobs in the veg garden and doing a little bit of summer rose care. We'll see you then. Bye.